The alien noblewoman collapsed. In his office, her emerald skin was burning, her pulse was failing. The doctor checked the scan and froze. This wasn't poison, it was a weapon. She grabbed his collar and whispered, "Enter me, or get out and let me die." Dr. James Thorne was halfway through signing off a diplomatic health clearance when his office door hissed open. Without clearance, he looked up, already annoyed. Lady Ariana Velkarin stood in the doorway. Something was wrong. Her emerald skin, usually smooth and controlled as polished stone, that had darkened in uneven waves along her neck and collarbone, a heat flush, Viocian dangerous. Her posture was rigid, but not strong, held together by will alone. She shut the door behind her and leaned against it like gravity had suddenly doubled. "Doctor," she said, and the words scraped out of her throat. "Someone at your dinner has poisoned me." James was on his feet before the sentence finished. "What?" He crossed the room. "Ariana, sit down." She took one step. That was all she managed. Her knees buckled. James caught her midfall, her weight hitting his chest harder than expected. She was hot, not feverish, burning. His arms locked around her automatically as he lowered her onto the exam cot. "Stay with me," he said sharply. Eyes open, her fingers fisted in the front of his shirt with surprising strength. "Fix it," she hissed. Now, his medical scanners were already active, light blooming across her body as data screamed warnings he didn't like. Then the compound signature resolved. James went very still. "No," he muttered. "No, no, no." Her heart rate spiked again. "What?" Ariana demanded. "Speak," he swallowed. "This isn't a standard toxin. It's synthetic, keyed specifically to Viocian endocrine pathways." Her breath hitched. "It's a forced metabolic stimulant," he continued, voice tightening. "Which is the polite term?" "And the real one," she snapped. He met her eyes. "It's a weaponized aphrodisiac." Silence slammed into the room. Her pupils dilated. Another wave rolled through her body, visible this time. She sucked in a sharp breath and arched slightly before forcing herself still. "It's designed to overload you," James said, slowly, "to turn your own biology against you." Ariana's jaw clenched. "They wanted spectacle." "Yes," he said, "and humiliation, and death if no one intervened." Her grip on his shirt tightened. "Do not," she said through clenched teeth. "Let me die like this." "You're not dying," James replied instantly. "Not on my watch." The medical AI flashed another warning. Her metabolism was accelerating instead of breaking the compound down. James pressed a cooling patch to her neck. She flinched. "I can feel it," she said. "The fire, it's building." His voice dropped. "Ariana, listen to me carefully." Her eyes locked on his. "This toxin forces a metabolic cycle," he said. "Your body is trying to complete it. If it can't, your heart will fail." "How do we complete it?" she asked. He hesitated a fraction too long. Her gaze sharpened. "Doctor, it requires a physical catalyst," he said. "Another living system to complete the loop." Her breathing went shallow. "Define physical," she said quietly. James didn't dodge it. "Close, prolonged skin to skin. The cycle won't trigger otherwise." A bitter laugh tore out of her. "Elegant. Poison disguised as instinct." She tried to sit up and failed. Her hand caught his wrist, grounding herself. "If the catalyst isn't consciously chosen," she said, voice tight, "my instincts will override me." "Yes, and if that happens, you'll lose control," he finished. "Your body will choose for you." She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, they were sharp with fury. "Someone did this to corner me," she said, "to strip my authority." James leaned closer. "You're not cornered. You're here." With me, she studied his face like she was weighing a weapon. "You can call another Viocian," he said carefully. "A guard, an aide." "No." Her answer was immediate. "I will not be vulnerable in front of my own court." Another wave hit. "Stronger," Jic gasped, fingers digging into his wrist. "James," she said, voice cracking, "if I lose the part of myself that can still choose, you won't," he said. "Stay with me." She pulled him closer by the front of his coat, forcing him into her line of sight. "Explain the risk to you," she demanded. Now, he didn't lie. "The feedback surge will affect both of us. Humans can tolerate it barely. It's intense." Her grip didn't loosen. "Will it kill you?" "No," she nodded once. "You," she said. James froze. "You are the only one I trust in this room," she continued. "You have no allegiance to my houses, no political gain. And you won't use this against me, Ariana," he said. "You don't want this choice under duress." "I want to live," she snapped, "and I am still choosing." Another spike rolled through her. This one almost broke her composure completely. She bent forward, forehead pressing briefly against his shoulder as she fought back. "Doctor," she whispered, "enter me into the catalyst cycle. Or leave and let my body take you anyway." That did it. James exhaled slowly, steadying himself. "Then we do this," he said, "for survival, nothing else." Her shoulders sagged with relief so sharp it startled him. "Slowly," she warned. "Match me. If you rush, I panic. If you hesitate, I burn." "I've got you," he said. She nodded, eyes closing as another wave gathered. "Hurry," she breathed, "before I lose myself." James moved closer, grounding her, anchoring her through the storm building inside her. What followed was not romance, it was endurance. Ariana fought the toxin with sheer will, every tremor met with discipline, every surge countered by breath and focus. James stayed with her through every spike, murmuring steady words, keeping her tethered to the present. "James," she gasped during one violent crest. "Another, I know," he said. "I'm here. I'm not letting go. Neither am I." Minutes stretched into something raw and relentless. Then, slowly, the heat ebbed, her breathing softened. The tremors slowed. Ariana sagged against him, spent its breaking. She murmured. James checked the monitors. "It is you did it." She pulled back, searching his face. Something unreadable passed between them. "No one," she said, composure snapping back into place, "can ever know what happened here." James met her gaze. "You'd be dead if we hadn't." "And still," she replied, standing carefully, "it must remain buried." She straightened, dignity settling over her like armor. "You will help me find who poisoned me," she said. "Not as my doctor," her eyes hardened. "As my accomplice." She turned and left. James stood alone in the medbay, the air still warm, knowing with absolute certainty this had changed nothing, and everything. Ariana Velkarin did not sleep. She stood alone in the shadowed antechamber of her diplomatic suite, palms braced against the cold glass overlooking the starfield. The stars were steady, orderly, unlike the aftershocks, still whispering through her body. The toxin was gone. Its echo was not. She could still feel the memory of heat beneath her skin, the way her instincts had clawed for grounding, for choice. That was the part that unsettled her most. Not the pain, not the danger, the dependency. A soft chime announced the door unlocking. "Enter," she said without turning. James stepped inside, medical tablet tucked under his arm, posture controlled but tense. He stopped a careful distance away. He'd learned, quickly, that Ariana noticed space the way others noticed sound. "I've reviewed the full metabolic logs," he said. "The compound is inert, completely burned out." "Good," she replied. "Then we proceed." He hesitated. "Proceed with what, exactly?" She turned. In fresh formal attire, she looked unchanged, immaculate, untouchable. Only someone trained to read micro-expressions would see the faint tightness in her shoulders, the guarded set of her jaw. "The investigation," she said. "And the lie?" James frowned. "The lie." She crossed the room, each step deliberate. "To whoever poisoned me, it must appear that the toxin failed incompletely, that I survived, yes, but damaged, weakened." "That's risky," he said. "If they think you're compromised, they will move." She cut in. "And that is exactly what we need." She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could feel the residual warmth of her presence, not the fire from before, something quieter, controlled. "You will remain near me," she continued, "publicly, as my physician, privately, as leverage." James studied her. "You're asking me to be bait." "I am asking you," she corrected, "to stand where you already stand." A beat passed. "Why me?" he asked truly. Her gaze sharpened, not defensive, calculating, honest. "Because you did not hesitate when it mattered," she said. "And because my biology has marked you as safe." James stiffened. "Ariana, listen," she said quietly. "Belosian instinct is not romantic. It is precise. It recognizes survival patterns. My body chose you because you were steady, because you anchored me without trying to own me." The words settled between them, heavier than accusation. "If another surge occurs," she continued, "my instincts will pull toward you. That is the risk, and the political cost." He asked, her lips curved without humor. "If discovered, it would be called scandal, weakness, dependency on a human." She met his eyes. "Which is why no one can know." James exhaled slowly. "You're asking me to gamble your reputation on my discretion." "No," she said. "I am trusting it." Silence stretched out outside the viewport. A transport ship slid past like a blade through dark water. "All right," James said at last. "We do this carefully, medically defensible. No unnecessary exposure." Ariana inclined her head. "Good, then we begin now." They moved through the diplomatic decks together, not touching, not close enough to invite comment. But Ariana adjusted her pace subtly to match his. James noticed. He didn't mention it. Whispers followed them anyway. A human doctor at the side of a Velosian noble was nothing new. A human doctor who never left her side after a poisoning attempt was something else entirely in the archival wing. They found the first thread. The ceremonial wine had been logged twice. Once by Velosian protocol, once by human security override. "That shouldn't happen," James muttered, scrolling through access records. "Only one system should authorize it." "Unless someone wanted plausible deniability," Ariana said. She leaned closer to the console, eyes scanning rapidly. For a moment, her sleeve brushed his wrist. The reaction was immediate, not explosive, not overwhelming but unmistakable. Ariana's breath caught for half a second. Her fingers tightened against the console edge. James noticed instantly. He shifted his stance just enough to block the view from the corridor, lowering his voice. "Was that yes?" she said, just as quietly. A reminder. Her jaw flexed. "The bond remains dormant." Watching, James nodded once. "Then we limit triggers. Stress, proximity, and emotion." She asked. He met her gaze. especially that. She straightened composure, snapping back into place. Then let us be very boring in public. They were not. By mid-cycle, rumors were already threading through the ship. A human aide had gone missing. Surveillance logs were being quietly scrubbed. Someone was nervous. They found Yaron Cole's quarters sealed but recently accessed. James frowned at the readings. Someone was here less than an hour ago. Cleaning, Ariana said flatly. Or collecting. Door slid open. The room was empty of people, not of evidence. A data slate lay on the bed, screen dark but warm. James picked it up. Encrypted. Break it. He worked quickly, fingers flying. Lines of text resolved. Fragmented but damning. Payment routes, chemical formulas, instructions written by someone who knew exactly how Viosian biology worked. This wasn't improvisation, James said. It was studied. Ariana's eyes went cold. Then the traitor sits higher than an aide. A sudden sound behind them. They turned. Director Vexer stood in the doorway, hands clasped behind his back. Expression silk smooth. Lady Velkarin, he said. Doctor, how fortunate. Ariana didn't move. You are trespassing. On the contrary, Vexer replied. Security irregularities are my concern. And this, his gaze flicked to the data slate, then to James's proximity, is most irregular. James felt Ariana shift, just slightly, closer to him. Not seeking. Bracing. Step aside, she ordered. Vexer smiled. I think not. I've seen the medical scans, Lady Velkarin. Unauthorized, intimate. Ariana's voice dropped. Careful. He leaned in, eyes sharp. Shall I file this as misconduct, or as an affair? The air tightened. James didn't move. Neither did Ariana. But beneath the stillness, something dangerous coiled, and somewhere deep in her biology, the echo of fire stirred alert, aware, and waiting for the next spark. Director Vexer did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. His power lived in implication, in the way he filled space without moving, in how he looked at Ariana as if she were already something to be managed. Step away from the slate, Doctor, he said mildly. That data is now a security matter. James didn't budge. Is it? He asked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like evidence of an attempted assassination. Vexer's eyes flicked to him, sharp and assessing. Careful, you are a guest on this vessel. Ariana finally moved. She stepped forward, placing herself between the two men with effortless authority. James felt it immediately, the subtle shift of heat. Not dangerous yet, but awake. You will leave, she said. Now Vexer smiled thinly. You're still recovering. Stress is unwise. Her eyes burned, and condescension is fatal. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Vexer inclined his head. Very well, for now. He turned, cloak whispering as he left. The door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. The silence that followed was heavy. James exhaled. He suspects. Yes, Ariana said. And worse, he's curious. She swayed. Only a fraction. Barely visible. James was already at her side, hand hovering but not touching. Ariana, he said quietly. I'm fine, she replied automatically. Her body betrayed her a second later. A sharp intake of breath. Her fingers clenched at her side. James closed the distance, lowering his voice. Talk to me. What are you feeling? She didn't look at him. The compound is gone, she said. But the cycle it forced, it rewired certain responses. Meaning my instincts now respond faster, she said. Stronger, especially under threat. Another breath. Controlled, measured. And right now, she admitted, they are very aware of you. James felt a tightening low in his chest that had nothing to do with fear. We need privacy, he said. She nodded once. Medbay, the sealed wing. They didn't walk together openly this time. Ariana left first, posture perfect, stride steady. James followed several minutes later, using a service corridor to avoid cameras. The choreography was deliberate, necessary. By the time he reached the medbay, Ariana was already inside. Palms braced against the exam table, shoulders rigid, the door sealed. The quiet snapped tight around them. The wave hit her then. Not violent, insistent, a low, spreading heat that made her breath turn shallow and her muscles tense like coiled wire. James crossed the room without thinking. Ariana, he said. Sit. I don't want to lose control, she said, voice strained. If I sit, I will. Then lean, he replied. Misha hesitated for half a second. Then she did. Her weight settled against his chest, controlled but undeniable. He felt the tension in her spine, the effort it took for her to remain composed. This isn't like before, she whispered. It's slower, deeper. He nodded. The toxin burned out the excess. What's left is the imprint. Her fingers curled into the fabric of his sleeve. Stay with me, she said. Not command. Request. I'm here. He grounded her the same way he had before. Breath matched to breath. Present, steady, unhurried. No urgency, no fear. The heat rose. So did the awareness between them. Ariana's control was fierce. Every tremor met with discipline. Every surge answered with will. But the bond made it impossible to ignore how closely tuned they were now. Her body responded to his proximity with unsettling precision. James, she murmured during one crest. If I let go, you won't, he said. You don't need to. Her forehead pressed briefly to his shoulder. Not seeking. Anchoring. Minutes stretched. Then slowly, the wave softened. Her breathing eased. The tension drained from her muscles in careful increments, like a blade being sheathed. When she finally pulled back, her expression was unreadable. That was the second cycle, she said. Controlled. Successful. James nodded. But it won't be the last. No, she agreed. Which means our enemies will try again. And next time, they'll be watching you. She straightened, stepping away from him with deliberate distance. We can't repeat this openly, she said. Not without consequences. James met her gaze. Then we adapt. A pause. She studied him, eyes sharp, searching. You are not frightened, she observed. He shook his head. Concerned, focused, but no. A corner of her mouth lifted. Good fear would make this complicated. It already is. Yes, she said softly, but complication is not weakness. It is leverage. She turned toward the console, already shifting back into strategist, diplomat, creditor. We move tonight, she said. We trace the slate's payment routes. We flush the conspirator into the open. And if Vexor moves first, her eyes flashed. Then we let him. James watched her for a long moment. There was fire in her still. Controlled, dangerous, alive. And he knew, with a clarity that unsettled him, that whatever had begun in that first desperate moment was no longer just about survival. It was becoming something sharper, something chosen. The ship changed after that night. It wasn't anything visible. No alarms, no announcements. Just a shift in how corridors emptied when Ariana passed. How conversations stopped half a second too late. How eyes lingered on James in ways they hadn't before. Someone was watching. Ariana noticed it too. They're adjusting, she said quietly as they moved through the upper diplomatic ring. That means they know they failed. James walked beside her, tablet in hand, posture neutral. To anyone else, he was just a physician escorting a high-ranking diplomat through post-poisoning protocol. To Ariana, he was something else entirely. How many suspects? He asked. 5, she replied. 3 2 human, all with access, all with motive. And her jaw tightened. Vexor is a blade without a hand, useful, dangerous, but not the architect. They stopped at a junction overlooking the treaty hall below. Delegates moved like pieces on a board. Unaware of how close the game was to collapsing, Ariana leaned lightly against the railing. Too lightly. James noticed the subtle shift in her balance immediately. He stepped closer, just enough to steady her without making it obvious. You're still not at baseline, he murmured. I don't need to be, she replied. I need to be functional. Her fingers brushed the back of his hand as she adjusted her stance. This time, the response was unmistakable. Her breath caught just once. James stilled completely. Ariana, he said quietly. That was the bond, she finished. Yes, it's sensitized. She straightened at once, pulling her hand away as if burned. That cannot happen in public, she said sharply. Not even by accident. Then we need countermeasures, James said. Spacing, signals, you tell me when it's building before it crests. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Agreed. They resumed walking. But the awareness remained. It followed them into the archive chamber, into the restricted data vault where payment trails unfolded like veins across the screen. Someone had funneled resources through shell accounts, using human logistics systems to obscure Velocian signatures. Clever, James muttered. They wanted Earth blamed if this went wrong. Ariana's eyes hardened, or me discredited for choosing Earth. A new file unlocked. James frowned. That's odd. What? These transfers, he said. They stop abruptly, hours before the poisoning. What? Because, he said slowly, someone terminated the account early, like they knew the toxin wouldn't finish the job. Ariana went very still. They expected me to survive. She said yes, and to be weakened. Yes, her lips curved into something sharp and dangerous. Then they miscalculated. An alert chimed. Unauthorized access. Security override. James swore under his breath. We've been flagged. The door to the archive chamber slid open. Director Vexor stood there again. This time, he wasn't alone. 2 security officers flanked him. Lady Velcorin, Vexor said smoothly. Doctor, you are requested for immediate inquiry. Ariana didn't move. On whose authority? Mine, he replied. And the council's. James felt her shift beside him. Not fear, calculation, and beneath it, the stir of something more primal, responding to threat. This is a mistake, James said evenly. You're interfering with an active investigation. Vexor smiled. On the contrary, I am concluding one. He gestured subtly. The officer stepped forward. Ariana's hand brushed James's wrist again. This time, the response surged fast and hot, a sharp spike that made her inhale sharply before she could stop it. James caught it instantly. He stepped closer, blocking the officer's view, voice low. Breathe. Stay with me. Her eyes locked onto his. For half a second, the diplomat vanished. What looked back at him was raw focus. Heat will fighting instinct, Vexor noticed. His smile widened. There it is, he murmured. The weakness I was promised. Ariana's voice turned to ice. Say another word, Director, and you will regret it. Oh, I intend to, Vexor replied. publicly. He stepped closer, gaze flicking pointedly between them. You will both accompany me, he said. Now James tightened his jaw. This was the moment. If they went quietly, Vexer would control the narrative. If they resisted, he would call it proof. Ariana straightened slowly, reclaiming every inch of her authority. Very well, she said. We will come. James glanced at her, surprised she met his eyes. Just briefly. Trust me. They walked. The inquiry chamber was smaller than the council hall, intimate, designed to pressure, not deliberate. Vexer circled them like a patient predator. You were poisoned, he said, by a compound that induces loss of control. Yes, Ariana replied. You survived, he continued. With human assistance, yet assistance, he repeated, or indulgence. James stepped forward. That line of questioning is inappropriate. Vexer ignored him. The Losian leaders are expected to embody control, he said, yet witnesses place you repeatedly in physical proximity to this human, leaning on him, seeking him. Ariana didn't deny it. She raised her chin. I sought survival, she said, and I chose my means. Vexer's eyes gleamed. You chose? Poorly. He turned to James. And you? He said. What exactly did you provide a doctor? James didn't hesitate. Medical intervention, he said, physically intensive, life-saving. Vexer laughed softly. You expect us to believe that? Yes, James replied, because it's true. Ariana felt the bond stir again, not violently, steadily. She took one controlled step closer to James. You see weakness, she said to Vexer. I see adaptation. Vexer's smile faded. You are compromised, he snapped. And by Velosian law. By Velosian law, Ariana cut in, voice ringing. I am entitled to vindication. The room stilled. Vexer froze. You would not dare, he said. I do, she replied calmly. You accuse me publicly. You question my authority. You imply corruption without proof. She turned fully toward him. I invoke the right of vindication. Silence fell like a blade. Vexer stared at her, then laughed. You are in no condition to fight. She inclined her head. Then I will choose a champion. James felt his blood go cold. Ariana turned to him. Not yet. Her eyes said, but soon. And James understood then that the bond between them was no longer just a liability. It was about to become a weapon. The right of vindication spread through the ship faster than any official notice. By the next cycle, everyone knew not the details, not the truth, but the shape of it. A challenge, an accusation, a fracture running straight through the heart of the treaty mission. James felt it in the way guards watched him longer than necessary, in the way conversations stopped when he entered a room, in the way Ariana's name carried a different weight when spoken aloud. She was no longer just a diplomat. She was a question. Stood together in a narrow observation corridor, overlooking the training decks below. The gymnasium lights were dim, inactive for now. It would change soon. You understand what this means? Ariana said, eyes fixed on the empty arena. James folded his arms. It means Vexer thinks he can win in public what he can't control in private. It means, she corrected, that he wants me to bleed. James turned to her. You're not fighting? No, she said calmly. I am not. She faced him fully. Then, I will choose a champion. His chest tightened. Ariana, I know, she said quietly. That is why I haven't said it yet. A silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. You don't owe me this, James finally said. She lifted an eyebrow. Oh, you didn't ask to be poisoned. You didn't ask to be bound to a human doctor. You don't have to stake your political survival on me. Ariana studied him for a long moment. You mistake obligation for trust, she said. I am not choosing you because I must. I am choosing you because I want to. That landed harder than any order could have. James exhaled slowly. Vexer is a trained combatant. Larger, stronger, he'll fight dirty. Good, Ariana replied. So will you. I'm not a soldier. No, she said. You are a survivor. You read books. You adapt. And you do not panic. Her gaze sharpened. Vexer expects brute force. He will not expect precision. James considered that. You've thought this through. I always do. A pause. And if you lose? He asked. Ariana's expression didn't change. Then my authority collapses. The treaty stalls. My rivals move. And the truth of the poisoning is buried beneath scandal. James nodded once. No pressure. She almost smiled. They were interrupted by a soft chime. A junior officer appeared at the corridor entrance, visibly nervous. My lady, he said. We've located Yaren Cole. Ariana turned sharply. Alive. The officer hesitated. We believe so. His access beacon pinged near the lower maintenance decks, then went dark. James frowned. He's trying to disappear. Or waiting, Ariana said. Lead us. Maintenance decks were colder, louder, filled with the hum of machinery and the echo of distant engines. Ariana moved quickly, too quickly. James noticed the stiffness in her stride, the way her breath shortened under stress. The bond, he murmured, as they descended a ladder. Is it quiet? She replied. For now. They rounded a corner. A figure lay slumped against the bulkhead, ahead. Gold. James reached him first, scanning quickly. No pulse, he said. Ariana crouched beside the body, eyes sharp. There, she said, pointing to a small mark behind Cole's ear. Injection site. James's jaw tightened. He was silenced. A shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. Someone's here, James said. Before either of them could react, security lights flared and voices echoed down the passage. Director Vexa stepped into view, flanked by guards. Well, he said mildly. How convenient. Ariana rose slowly to her feet. You're late, she said. Vexa's gaze flicked to Cole's body. A dead accomplice. A human doctor present again. He looked almost pleased. Lady Velcrin, he continued, you make this far too easy. James felt Ariana's tension spike beside him. The bond stirred, not violently, but insistently, a low hum of awareness that made the air feel charged. Ariana, James said softly, stay with me. She did just barely. Vexa stepped closer. You appear unwell. I am tired of you, Ariana snapped. He smiled. That is unfortunate, because now I have witnesses. He gestured. The guards raised their weapons not at James, but at Ariana. James moved without thinking, stepping half a pace in front of her. That's enough, he said. Vexa's eyes narrowed. You overstepped. No, James replied evenly. You do. Ariana's hand brushed his arm, steadying herself. The contact sent a sharp ripple through her system. She inhaled hard, fighting it down. Vexe. I saw everything. There it is, he said softly. Dependency. Compromise. He turned to the guards. Escort them back to the upper decks. Ariana's straightened voice cutting through the tension. By Velocian law, she said clearly, I repeat my invocation. Trial by vindication. You accused me. You will answer for it. The guards froze. Vexa stared at her, then laughed. You truly mean to go through with this? Yes, and if you are unfit to fight? Her eyes slid to James. Then, she said, I will choose my champion. Silence followed. James felt the weight of every gaze turned toward him. Vexa's smile twisted. A human champion. How poetic. Ariana stepped closer to James, lowering her voice so only he could hear. I need time, she whispered. I need the toxin's echo fully suppressed. I need you standing. He met her gaze. You're asking me to fight for your life, he said. I am asking you, she replied, to fight for the truth. James nodded once. All right, he said. I'll do it. Vexa's amusement vanished. Tomorrow cycle, he snarled. In the gymnasium, no interference. Ariana inclined her head. Agreed. As the guards moved away, Ariana's strength finally faltered. She swayed, hand catching James's sleeve. Easy, he murmured, steadying her. I've got you. Her voice dropped to a breath. You always do. The bond pulsed once more, quiet but undeniable. And James understood then that tomorrow's fight would decide more than honor. It would decide who controlled the story and who survived it. The hours before the duel stretched thin and sharp. James spent them in the training wing, stripped down to simple combat gear, moving through drills he hadn't used since emergency response training on frontier stations. Nothing ceremonial, nothing elegant, just leverage, balance, breath, across the ship. Ariana fought a different battle. She stood alone in the dim medbay annex, palms flat on the table, eyes closed. Her vitals scrolled across the wall display in steady green. But the numbers lied by omission. That the toxin was gone. Its echo was not. It waited beneath her skin, responsive now to pressure instead of chemistry. Stress, threat, anticipation. Each one fed it, and right now, all three were circling. She opened her eyes as the door hissed. James stepped in. He stopped when he saw her posture. Too rigid, too controlled. It's rising, he said quietly. She didn't deny it, not violently yet. He crossed the room, keeping his movements unhurried. This is the third pattern, he said. Delayed, deeper binding. Ariana exhaled through her nose. You sound almost impressed. I'm concerned, he replied. This wave won't crest fast. It will grind. Her fingers tightened against the table edge. Then help me keep it contained. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel him without touching. Talk to me, he said. What does it feel like? Her jaw flexed, like standing too close to a fire that hasn't decided whether to burn me or warm me. James nodded once. Then we don't feed it. She laughed softly. You're standing 3 feet from me. Exactly, he said. Enough to anchor, not enough to provoke. Another breath. The tension in her shoulders eased by a fraction. You will win, she said suddenly. James met her gaze. You don't know that. I do, she replied. Because Vexa fights to dominate. You fight to end. He didn't argue. A silence settled. Thick but not uncomfortable. If something goes wrong, James said. If this wave overwhelms you during the duel, it won't. She cut in. If it does, he continued calmly, you look at me, you stay with me, no matter what is happening around us. Her eyes searched his. You will be in combat, she said. Your focus must be on survival. So will yours, he replied, which is why this works. Another ripple passed through her, gentler this time. The bond adjusted, adapted. She straightened. Then go, she said. Prepare. He hesitated. Ariana, yes, if I win, he said. This doesn't disappear. The bond, the attention. Her lips curved slightly. I am aware. And if I lose, She stepped closer, just enough to make the air tighten. "You won't," she said softly. The gymnasium filled quickly, Velocian nobles, human delegates, security personnel lining the upper tiers. No cheering, no noise, just expectation. Heavy as gravity. James stepped onto the mat. Vexor followed. The difference was obvious. Vexor was larger, built for dominance. His confidence rolled off him in waves, fed by tradition and the certainty that a human did not belong here. Ariana watched from the elevated platform, spine straight, face composed. Only James knew how tightly she held herself together. The duel master raised his hand. "Trial of vindication," he announced. "Yield or incapacitation ends the contest." The hand dropped. Vexor charged. James didn't. He shifted. The first blow cut through empty space. James pivoted, elbow driving into Vexor's ribs with controlled force. Not enough to finish, enough to unsettle. Vexor snarled and swung again. James ducked, rolled, came up inside Vexor's reach where size worked against him. He struck fast, precise, a knee, a shoulder check, a twist of the wrist that forced Vexor to adjust. "The crowd," murmured. Ariana's breath hitched. The toxin stirred. She focused on James, on his movement, his steadiness. Vexor adapted, fury bleeding into his technique. He went for brute force, trying to overwhelm. James waited for the mistake. It came, a heavy overextension, a grab meant to crush. James slipped under it, locked Vexor's arm, and used the larger man's momentum against him. The impact echoed through the gym as Vexor hit the mat hard. Vexor roared and surged back up, rage stripping away control. James met him head on, this time not with strength, with leverage. He twisted, dropped his weight, and drove Vexor down again, locking the joint cleanly. Perfectly. Vexor froze. Pain registered, so did the reality of the position. "Yield," James said, voice steady, never. Vexor spat. James tightened the hold just enough. The duel master stepped forward. "Yield." Vexor's breath came hard, then through clenched teeth. "I yield." The gym went silent, then erupted. James released a hold and stood slowly, chest rising and falling. Ariana rose. "Dr. Thorne," she said, voice carrying, "you have upheld my honor." James looked up at her. Always before anything else could be said. The ship's intercom chimed. "Lady Velcorin, Dr. Thorne, report to council." Chamber immediately. Ariana's gaze sharpened. The duel was over. The reckoning was not. As they walked side by side toward the chamber, Ariana leaned just slightly toward him. "You did exactly what I knew you would," she murmured. "What's that?" he asked. "You ended it." Her fingers brushed his sleeve. The bond steadied, and James knew the council would be the most dangerous battlefield yet. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. Tiered stone seats curved inward like the ribs of a great beast. Light filtered down from a fractured dome, casting sharp lines across the floor where Ariana Velcorin now stood alone. James was positioned one step behind. Her deliberate, symbolic. Every eye in the chamber tracked them as they entered. Some curious, some hostile, a few calculating enough to be dangerous. Director Vexor was already there, restrained, silent, burning with fury. Councillor Shirax rose first, her voice cool and precise. "Lady Vel, the trial has concluded. Your champion has prevailed. Yet we are summoned again," explained. Ariana didn't hesitate because the duel resolved honor. She said, "Not truth." A murmur rippled. Another councillor leaned forward. "You accuse a security director of conspiracy, of poisoning, of treason. Yet your own condition, my condition," Ariana interrupted, "is irrelevant to the facts." Shirax's gaze flicked to James. "Is it?" The air tightened. James felt Ariana's control lock into place like armor snapping closed. But beneath it, the bond stirred, not wildly, watchfully. "The council has reviewed medical logs," Shirax continued. "They indicate prolonged, undocumented physical intervention by a human physician during a compromised state." Ariana stepped forward. "Yes," she said, "because that intervention saved my life." A beat. "And because," she continued, voice unwavering, "someone engineered my death to look like weakness." She raised a data chip. "This contains proof of the compound's origin, its delivery route, and its intended effect." The chamber stilled. Shirax gestured. "Proceed." The holo flared to life. Encrypted communications, payment transfers, Vexor's access codes threaded through them like a signature. Not direct orders. Worse. Authorization. Plausible deniability. Shattered. Vexor surged against his restraints. "This is manipulation." Ariana didn't look at him. "This council will note," she said, "that Director Vexor arrived at the maintenance deck moments after Cole's execution, that he repeatedly attempted to isolate my physician, that he pushed for public exposure before investigation." She turned slowly, meeting each councillor's gaze in turn. "He did not expect me to survive." Silence followed. Then Shirax spoke again, slower this time. "And the bond," there it was. The word hung in the air like a blade suspended by a single thread. "You cannot deny it," Shirax said. "Your physiology has formed an attachment to a human." James felt Ariana in hell. He knew what it cost her, not to look back at him. "Yes," she said. That chamber erupted. Voices overlapped, outrage, shock, calculation. Ariana raised her hand. They fell. Silent. I will not insult this council by pretending it does not exist, she said, nor will I allow it to be twisted into scandal. She turned, finally, and looked at James. The bond answered instantly. Not fire, not loss of control. Recognition. I did not lose clarity, Ariana continued. I exercised it. Her gaze returned to the council. I chose survival. I chose an ally outside our political decay. I chose someone who stood between me and death without asking what it would cost him. James's chest tightened. This bond, she said, is not weakness. It is consequence. But, of adaptation. Shirax narrowed her eyes. And if it compromises your judgment again? Ariana didn't hesitate. Then judge me by my outcomes, she said. I exposed a conspiracy, preserved the treaty, removed a traitor, and I did it while poisoned. She straightened. I am not compromised a beat. I am evolved. Silence crushed down on the chamber then. Slowly, councillors began to raise their hands. One by one, the vote was not close. Shirax lowered her hand. The council recognizes Lady Velkarin's authority. Director Vexa will stand trial for treason. The alliance proceeds. The gavel struck. It was done. As the chamber emptied, Ariana stood motionless for several seconds. Only when the doors sealed did she exhale. James stepped closer. You held, he murmured. She turned to him then. The diplomat slipping just enough to reveal the woman beneath. Because you were there, she said quietly. They stood close, not touching but acutely aware of the space between them. What happens now? James asked. Ariana's expression shifted. Thoughtful, dangerous now. She said, they send me away. His brow furrowed. Away. For my protection, she replied with dry precision. Officially. In truth, to remove me from the center while the fallout settles. And you, I will be offered advancement, he said. Distance. Her lips curved faintly. Of course. They walked together down the long corridor toward the observation deck. The stars beyond the glass felt suddenly closer. Heavier. You and I, Ariana said at last, stand at an intersection neither of us planned. James leaned against the railing beside her. I don't regret it. Neither do I, she said. She turned to him, eyes sharp and searching. I will not ask you to follow me, she said. That would make this obligation, he asked. She stepped closer. I am inviting you, she said, to orbit me, to choose this, knowing what it costs. James met her gaze without hesitation. I already did, he said. Ariana held his eyes for a long moment, then she nodded once. Good, she said softly, because this story is not finished. The separation was surgical. Ariana departed at dawn cycle, her shuttle escorted by Velosian guards and wrapped in the language of protection and protocol. James watched from the observation deck as the vessel detached, its engines flaring once before sliding into the dark. No farewell, no gesture, anything more would have been noticed. Distance settled in immediately, not as absence, but as pressure. James accepted the promotion the same day, Chief Medical Officer of the Resolute. Deep space assignment, clean, prestigious, far enough away to look like coincidence. It fooled no one who mattered. Weeks passed. Space had a way of stretching time into something elastic. James buried himself in work, outbreaks, injuries, decisions that demanded clarity and left no room for reflection. And yet, in the quiet moments he felt it. Not heat, awareness, a subtle pull at the edge of thought. Like gravity you didn't notice until you drifted too close. Ariana felt it too, on V. She stood at the center of a court that smiled too easily and watched too closely. Her return had shifted balances. Rivals recalculated. Allies reassessed. Every step she took was measured now not just for power, but for proof that she was still unassailable. At night, alone in her private chambers overlooking the bioluminescent cities below, she let herself acknowledge the truth. She never would allow. Distance had not weakened the bond. It had clarified it. The first time it flared unexpectedly. It nearly cost her. She was in council session, fielding accusations thinly veiled as concern, when a sharp ripple passed through her without warning. Not pain, not need. Recognition. She inhaled once, steadying herself, eyes flicking briefly to the window, somewhere far beyond the planet's atmosphere. James Thorne was awake. She felt it as clearly as if he stood beside her. After that she learned to anticipate it, to manage it, to let it inform rather than control. Weeks later, the summons came. James was in the Resolute's medbay when the message arrived. Encrypted at a level he hadn't seen before, a Filsharan priority channel. He didn't hesitate. Her image resolved on the Hala, sharp and composed, emerald skin catching the light of Velosian dawn. You took your time, she said. He smiled faintly. You didn't say it was urgent. Her gaze softened just a fraction. It is now, she explained quickly. A rival house. A political maneuver disguised as trade renegotiation. A trap designed to isolate her and force a concession. They believe my judgment is still influenced, she said carefully, and they want to test that. James said, yes. He leaned back against the console. What do you need from me? She held his gaze through the projection. Come to Velos, she said. Not an order, an invitation. I can't just, he began. I know, she said. That is why I'm asking now. Before the council session. Before the pressure peaks. A pause. And if I come, he said, It will be seen as confirmation, yes. And if I don't, her jaw tightened, then they will assume I am lying. James exhaled slowly. You always did enjoy impossible choices. Her lips curved. You've never complained before. He didn't answer immediately. He didn't need to. The Resolute docked at Velos 12 days later. Ariana was waiting, not at the center of the platform, not surrounded by ceremony. She stood at the edge, retinue held back by a single lifted hand. James crossed the distance between them, feeling the bond sharpen with every step. Not overwhelming, not consuming. Align. She stopped an arm's length away. You came, she said quietly. I told you, he replied. Orbit, remember. Her gaze dropped briefly to his chest, then lifted again. Walk with me, she said. They moved together through the palace corridors, guards and servants falling into step at a respectful distance. The whispers followed, but Ariana didn't slow. Inside her private suite, the doors sealed. Only then did she exhale. Thank you, she said. For what? For choosing me again, she replied. He stepped closer, careful, reading her the way he always had. You didn't call me here just for politics. No, she admitted, but politics are the excuse. She met his gaze. The bond has changed, she said. Distance refined it. It no longer demands, it waits. James nodded. So do we. A silence settled between them, charged but controlled. Outside, Velos turned beneath its sun, unaware that something fundamental had shifted again. Not a scandal, not a weakness, a convergence. The council chamber on Velos was older than most stars humans had charted. Its walls were grown, not built. Living crystal veins pulsed faintly beneath translucent stone, responding to presence, emotion, power. It was a room that remembered every lie ever spoken inside it. Ariana Velkrin stood at its center. James stood where he was allowed, one step back, visible, unigenora ble. That, in itself, was a provocation. Lady Saraxa rose from her seat with deliberate slowness, tall, radiant, dangerous in the way only someone born to power could be. You bring your human into our inner council again, Saraxa said smoothly, despite knowing how it appears. Ariana didn't look at James. She didn't need to. I bring truth, she replied. If that unsettles you, consider why. A ripple moved through the chamber. Saraxa smiled thinly. Truth, she echoed. Or fixation. The word was chosen carefully. Ariana felt the bond tighten. Not flare, not burn, just alert. James felt it too. A pressure behind the sternum. Awareness without panic. This council, Saraxa continued, has tolerated much. A poisoning scandal, a public duel, a human champion standing where Velosian blood should stand. She stepped forward, but this, her eyes flicked to James, then back to Ariana. This attachment threatens the crown itself. Ariana finally turned her head. My crown, she said quietly, is not threatened by who stands beside me. Saraxa laughed softly. Then you are more compromised than I feared. The chamber stirred. Sarax leaned forward. Lady Velkrin, answer plainly. Does this bond influence your decisions? Ariana didn't answer immediately. She felt every eye on her, every expectation, every blade hidden in courtesy. James said nothing. He trusted her. Yes, Ariana said at last. The chamber erupted before it could spiral. She raised her hand. Every alliance influences decisions, she continued, voice cutting through the noise. Every advisor, every general, every lover history has conveniently ignored. Her gaze hardened. The difference, she said, is whether that influence weakens or clarifies. Saraxa sneered. And a human clarifies Velosian destiny. Ariana stepped forward. This human, she said, stood between me and death when your houses waited for my fall. He fought when you whispered. He stayed when distance would have made his life easier. Her voice lowered. If that frightens you, it is because you have never chosen anything that cost you. Silence slammed into the chamber. Saraxa's smile vanished. Then choose now, Saraxa said coldly. The crown, or him. James felt the bond tighten sharply then, not with fear, with resolve. Ariana didn't look at him. She didn't need to. She turned back to the council. You believe the crown is something I wear, she said. Something you can revoke. She spread her hand slightly. The crown is Velos, its survival, its evolution. She lifted her chin. And Velos will not endure by devouring those who strengthen it. Shyrax inhaled sharply. You would risk fracture, I would risk stagnation less, Ariana replied. Sarax's eyes burned. Then you leave us no choice. Guards shifted not toward Ariana, toward James. The chamber moved all at once. James felt it before he saw it. The intent, the sudden decision to remove the variable. He stepped forward instinctively. Ariana moved faster. Enough. She snapped out. The crystal veins in the chamber fled bright. Authority answered her. You will not touch him, she said, voice ringing. Not here. Not ever. Saraxa froze. You choose him over Velos. Ariana's answer was calm. I choose Velos with him. The room held its breath. Then, one by one, councillors rose. Not all, but enough. Shyrax lowered her head. The council recognizes Lady Velkrin's continued authority. Saraxa stared, stunned. This is not finished, she hissed. No, Ariana agreed. It's decided. The session ended in silence. When the chamber finally emptied, Ariana stood alone for a long moment. Then she turned. James was already there. You didn't hesitate, he said quietly. She shook her head. Neither did you. They walked together out onto the balcony overlooking Velos, the city glowing beneath them like a living map of light and motion. I put a target on you, Ariana said. Permanently. James leaned against the railing beside her. I walked into it willingly. She looked at him then. Truly looked. You could still leave, she said, before this hardens into history. And miss the ending, he asked. A corner of her mouth lifted. The ending, she said. It hasn't been written yet. The bond between them steadied. No longer reactive. Chosen. Balanced. Above them, Velos turned. Below them, the future waited. The city of Velos did not sleep. It pulsed. Bioluminescent towers breathed light into the night. Rivers of motion threading between districts grown rather than built. From the balcony of Ariana Velkaran's private residence, the world looked orderly. It was anything but. James stood beside her, hands resting on the cool stone rail. Below them, the future moved without knowing how close it had come to fracture. They'll keep testing you, he said. Ariana nodded. They always have. And me. This time she smiled. Not the diplomat's curve of lips. Something real. Yes, she said. Especially you. The days after the council vote were a storm disguised as calm. Official statements praised unity. Private messages carried threats dressed as concern. Rival houses recalibrated. Alliances bending but not yet breaking. Ariana navigated it all with ruthless precision. James watched her do it, seeing what the galaxy never would. How carefully she rationed her strength. How the bond no longer surged, but settled into something quieter, stable. Chosen. It no longer demanded survival. It offered alignment. On the fourth night, Ariana sent the guards away, the door sealed. Only then did she allow herself to lean back against the table, shoulders dropping with a controlled exhale. Say it, she said. James stepped closer. You're exhausted. Yes, she replied, but not weakened. He studied her vitals on the wall display. Everything stable, everything earned. The bond, he said, it's changed again. She nodded. It responds now to intent, not crisis. She met his gaze. That makes it more dangerous, she said softly. Or more honest, he countered. A beat. You could still return to Earth, she said. Your career would thrive, quietly, and you could rule without me, he replied. She didn't deny it. I don't want quiet, he continued. And you don't want a throne built on isolation. Her eyes searched his. Velos will never be gentle, she said. My world sharpens everything it touches. He stepped closer. So does mine. For the first time since the poisoning, Ariana didn't brace herself when he entered her space. She chose it. The bond responded with warmth, not heat. Connection without urgency. Orbit me, she said again. Not as a shield, not as a symbol, as a partner, he finished. Yes, weeks later. The announcement went public. Dr. James Thorne was appointed as a Velosian human liaison for integrated medical and bioadaptive research, a role with no precedent, no clear limits, a role that placed him exactly where some wanted him least. Reaction was immediate. Praise, condemnation, fear. Ariana watched it all from the council floor, unmoved. They will never stop measuring us, James said quietly beside her. She inclined her head. Then we give them something new to measure. The first joint initiative launched within the month. Shared research, shared security, shared authority. Not domination. Convergence. On the night the treaty amendments passed, Ariana and James returned to the balcony overlooking Velos. The city shone brighter than before. You realize, James said, we've just made ourselves impossible to separate. Ariana rested her forearms on the rail, gaze distant. That was always the point. He turned toward her. Any regrets? She considered the question seriously. No, she said, only awareness. Of what? That power taken alone rots, she replied, and power shared terrifies those who hoard it. She turned to him. And you? She asked. Any doubts? James shook his head. I chose my orbit, he said. I'm exactly where I meant to be. Ariana held his gaze. The crown of Velos reflected faintly in her eyes. Then, she said quietly, we begin, not with certainty, not with peace, but with direction. Above them, the stars burned steady. Below them, a world adjusted. And between them stood something rare in any galaxy, a bond not forged by destiny alone, but by choice.